Okay.
All right, this is Dr. Terry Simmons. I run a website called thesimmonsreview.com along with my wife and several others. We mix professors and students and others in the pursuit of what's going on around the world. And we're making informational podcasts as we're right now. And today we're talking to Professor Tim Boyd, and he and his family just got back from Ukraine. And he's done this kind of program with me before. He's one of the contributors to our site. And whenever he comes back from a foreign adventure, I want to hear about it first thing because he does good work and he's going to tell you about it. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, as you just said, we just returned. Actually, Cheryl and I were talking about it's been a month, but it seems like yesterday. But I guess probably for us, when we did get back, probably the greatest thing that we agreed upon, and just our trip was far too short. But it was packed full of experiences, and some of those were not so pleasant, but most of them actually were pleasant in spite of a lot of people expressing to us their anxiety about going to Ukraine, and it's supposed to be in all this chaos and turbulence, which it is. But we always respond to them saying, well, that's over in the far part of the country. We go to the western part of Ukraine. And so really we're kind of immune to all of that that's going on in the east.
So you go all the time, right? How many times have you been to Ukraine?
Goodness, I've quit counting, but I think probably this is, of course, just short term now, we've probably been there and back 11 times.
Oh my goodness, so you're a regular there.
But this summer was the shortest.
So, I guess it's technically correct to call you a missionary?
Well, that's a traditional term, and we don't mind that, but I suppose probably the more contemporary term is cross-cultural worker, because we're obviously interested in transforming people's lives through the gospel of Christ, but whatever it takes to reach that, either through education, humanitarian aid, or whatever, that we can do that. But yeah, working cross-culture with people. In fact, that's what I tell people I do technically. My assignment at the college is training youth to work in cross-culture environments.
So that must be very satisfying work for you if you've been doing it this long. I understand you're in the middle of a PhD program and you do all this. How can you handle all this intense doctoral work, traveling to foreign lands, raising a family? How do you do it?
Well, the key word there's handle. I don't know. Sometimes, it seems like things fly apart at times. Well, right now I am at the end of it, just at the dissertation part. All the other assignment stuff's done, and so really I'm just kind of on hold right now until I can complete the research seminar and then move into actually the research on the dissertation.
Well, I have tremendous admiration for what you're doing, and I personally know what it was like when I went through my program. It seemed like it was all-consuming, and then to do anything outside of that is just an amazing feat. So I applaud you for your good work. I'm a political scientist, as you know, and we've done programs before together. And I'm really very interested in the political side of what's going on there with the Russians. Everybody's asking me all the time, as a former analyst, what's going on with Vladimir Putin? What's going on with the Russians? What are they doing? Well, if you read the newspaper, unless you're on another planet, you know that he's doing something there. And my understanding is that he's pretty much come across the border in the eastern part of the country, bordering Russia. But what's happening on the west side? You were in Uzhhorod, right? Mm-hmm. On the Carpathian side?
Yes, that's correct. I wished I'd had more time to actually inquire from many of the people this summer, not as much as last summer, but what we're hearing from our friends, at least on the western part of Ukraine, which are the more European people. None of this has caught them by surprise. They, from the get-go, have always been suspicious of Russian aggression, Putin particularly. They always have considered Putin as one who would cause aggression against them, and so this doesn't really surprise them. They take this for granted that it's going to happen, As long as Russia wants to do it, Russia will do it.
So do I take it from those remarks that there's actual warfare in the western part of the country?
You know, I don't think that would be an accurate term. However, as I said previously, we always express to people, oh, there's no danger in this part of Ukraine. The conflict's over in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Oblast, I guess, is the correct term. We would say state. However, we know more and got into the country from, we crossed the border from Hungary. We come into Hungary instead of through Kyiv. We know more and got across the border from where we come in and came to a large roundabout that exchanges the traffic from the state highway from Kyiv to another one. And here's all this military hardware, tanks, police and everything, and we looked but hurried to get out of there because you never want to get stopped by those people. Went on maybe about 10 miles further where we were going, and we said something to our friends and said, oh yeah, it was just on the radio and everything. There was a huge shooting down in Mukachevo, which is a city about 25 miles south of Uzhgorod.
So there is movement, at least true movement.
It is, and
material.
I would say, to respond to your question directly, no, there's not warfare there, but there's so much unrest.
Right.
There's so much chaos and confusion, and I don't think that's inherently Ukrainian. Ukrainians are basically pacifistic and peace-loving. I think because there's so many Ukrainians that are frustrated with the oligarchy system and the corruption and the mafia tendencies of the politics, and of course with Russian influence, at least from Ukrainian perspective, they consider that to be normal from the Russian perspective, the chaos, the corruption, the mafia mentality.
Were you ever afraid for your personal safety or your family's when you were there? Nothing's true.
I mean, it's in the back of your mind, but we even seeing that, we went on to where we were going and fine, but that wasn't the only incident that we experienced this summer. Usually we're thinking, oh, we'll be immune to that in Western Ukraine. Nobody cares about Western Ukraine. It's basically like Appalachia in some respects. And, why would Russia be interested in this area? However, our son Timothy actually witnessed a conflict between the military and a guy. It wasn't a conflict, army against army. A guy had caused a gesture against the army, and they dragged him out of his vehicle right there in the village we were staying in and beat him up.
So there is some hostility.
There's a lot of hostilities and confusion. And, yes.
So now I got to ask you the $64,000 question. What's going to happen next?
I think I said it, April, a year and a half ago.
Right.
Next coming April will be 2 years when we were on Consider This, and I'll stand on it, and I think it's the same. I think what's going to happen without some kind of either supernatural intervention or intervention among politics that are able to stabilize the situation, which we can about see where that's going. I think it's going to continue. I think there's going to be not a huge escalation. I consider Putin extremely tactful and wise. He's a propaganda machinist. He's able to put the propaganda out there. He's proposing himself as a tough guy, a macho dude, if you've seen anything on dude. And I think what he's going to do is continue to take bits and chunks as he can.
So incrementally seize control, or do you think he'll do the whole country, or if he just wants the eastern regions next to the border?
I don't think his intentions would be limited to Ukraine. Ukraine would be a prize because of the potential that Ukraine has agriculturally and industrially.
So you don't think he's done?
No,
No.
I don't think.
Now see, we read, we hear, we watch television, we get impressions, but it's always invaluable in my estimation as a political scientist to talk to somebody who was actually there, and that's why he's not going to interview today.
Well, my evaluations or remarks are not merely my own. That's basically the sentiments of the people that we work with in Ukraine, and they could be mistaken. Their evaluations could be wrong, but these people generally have their finger on the pulse, and generally things they've told us are pretty accurate and they come true. So.
So does the press differ in the eastern regions, or the oblasts, than it does in the west? Is there a difference in the press coverage?
You know, I'm not sure, because I don't follow the press there. I don't try to read the press a lot. It's hard it's hard enough in the United States to figure out
Right.
what press.
Right.
There, it's even more difficult because, you know, you pick up things and you don't know what's tabloid and what's not.
Right.
My feeling from understanding of the people we work with would be that much of the news is biased,
Right.
just like it always was. But there are free and private news reporting agencies, but I think they're the smaller ones.
All right, not to get, you know, this topic we can go on forever, but I'm kind of interested in, are you going to go back? And if you do, what do you expect this time?
Yes, every year I think we have mixed feelings about going back in our particular circumstance, because actually what we try to do in one aspect is try to work ourselves out of a job, you know.
Right.
And it's expensive, and it's taxing emotionally, physically to make a trip, especially a quick trip like that. But yes, we always come back and say, well, we're through with this, but when it comes into the spring, we start thinking about. So yes, we plan to go back.
So you have affection in your heart for the Ukrainians.
Sure.
Yeah, I can see that through your talk.
Well, like I said on Consider This, when we were responding, I don't remember the exact question. Really, for me, it's all about the people. Whether we're talking about political, economic, educational, whatever influences or consequences for these people, I'm interested in obviously what affects the people, you know, for the best, obviously.
Well, I think this is probably a story that's going to continue, and obviously we'll want to ask you back to tell us at each stage, if that's all right with you, because again, there's nothing like asking somebody that's been there.
Sure.
You know, and I really appreciate you coming. I'm glad you're home safe,
Sure,
and
thank
your
you.
family, and thank you very much for doing this interview.
You're welcome.
This is Terry Simmons. Thank you for tuning us in at thesimmonsreview.com. We want answers, and we talk to the right people to get them.